In less than 2 years of operations, the Jurassic World Velocicoaster at Universal's Islands of Adventure has grabbed the attention of the masses and delivered thrills to millions upon millions of riders. The roller coaster has become extremely well known for its incredible setting, its immersive theming and atmosphere, its top-tier ride experience, and its industry-leading operations that keep the line moving quickly. These are the reasons why I love Velocicoaster, and it's currently my third favorite roller coaster of the nearly 600 coasters I've ridden around the globe. Now, unfortunately, I'm here to report about a change made to the coaster that impacts it in a negative way. And just to be clear, this change does not affect the ride's presentation, theming, or experience. Well, it sort of affects the experience, but in relation to many of my other nerdy videos, changes have been made to the way Velocicoaster is operated by its ride crew that's led to negative results when it comes to capacity. A new policy now means that trains spend more time loading in the station, which means slower dispatches leading to less trains being dispatched each hour, meaning less people get to ride Velocicoaster each day. As a former ride operator, this drives me crazy, so let me explain, and heads up, this is a very nerdy video, and for most people, you would have never noticed the change I am about to describe, and it will most likely not impact your life one bit, but if this video does impact your life in some way, feel free to give it a like to help the channel against the YouTube algorithm. Velocicoaster operates with up to 4 24-passenger trains on the track simultaneously, and what's rare about the ride is it does so through a single station where riders both unload and load one train at a time. For coasters with larger trains like Velocicoaster in a single station, typically 3 trains is the maximum amount that will run on the track. An example of this can be found just across the lagoon in The Incredible Hulk, which at most operates 3 32-passenger trains that funnel through the ride's single station for unloading and loading of new riders. Once coasters step up to 4 train operations or more, you'll usually see these scenarios. A station where 2 trains are unloaded and loaded at a time, like on Cheetah Hunt at Busch Gardens, Tampa Bay. A dual-sided station like that of Kangda Ka at Six Flags Great Adventure, where 2 trains are unloaded and loaded, while 2 other trains are out on the ride course. Or your other option is a separate load and unload station like that of Tehran at Phantasialand. But Universal made the choice to operate Velocicoaster with just a single station used for loading and unloading, which as far as I know is the first roller coaster to ever pull this off successfully with 4 train operations. From what I understand, the ride crew at Velocicoaster has a goal to achieve 1,440 riders an hour, with the ride's 24-passenger trains that require 60 dispatches an hour at a rate of 1 dispatch every 60 seconds. But I've personally seen the ride operate faster than this, with a dispatch about every 55 seconds, leading to 65 dispatches an hour, yielding a theoretical 1,560 riders an hour. And from what I last heard, the ride crew has achieved as high as 1,745 riders in a single hour, which is nearly the ride's theoretical capacity of 1,800 riders per hour. But the main point is that on average, the ride crew used to average roughly 1,500 to 1,600 riders an hour, which aligns exactly with the 55-second dispatch intervals I've seen while attending the park. And in the coaster's first 365 days of operation, over 6 million people rode Velocicoaster. Well, thanks to a new procedure that ride attendants must follow while checking restraints, I'm hearing the average hourly capacity now averages as low as 1,100 riders per hour. That's a nearly 27% drop in capacity from an average of 1,500 riders per hour. So rather than seeing dispatch intervals around every 55 seconds, we're now looking at an average of closer to 75 to 80 seconds. And because Velocicoaster only takes about 95 seconds from when a train dispatches out of the station to when it hits the final brake run, trains need to leave the station quickly to avoid stacking the ride's other trains on its brake run before the station. With 4 train operations in the past, it was rare that trains backed up to the point where a train had to stop on this first portion of final brake run, as dispatches were fast enough to prevent this. But at a 75 to 80 second dispatch interval, the 4th train stacks every single cycle on the final brake run, making 4 train operations completely pointless. Now let's take a quick step back. Compared to your average regional amusement park, 1,100 riders per hour is actually fantastic, and most parks dream of achieving these capacity numbers. But for one of the world's busiest theme parks in the theme park mecca of Orlando, Florida, there's drastically higher standards when it comes to rider capacity, and a major attraction operating at an average of just 61% of its theoretical capacity is not good. Online estimates state that over 9 million guests visited Islands of Adventure in 2021, and before the pandemic, this number was even higher. But at this attendance figure, and with the park's 365-day operations, that's an average of over 24,500 visitors a day, a number that smaller regional amusement parks may see a few times a year on their busiest of days. So the more people who can ride Velocicoaster each hour, the better. And over the course of a year, an average drop of 27% means instead of that figure of 6 million people riding Velocicoaster, only about 4.4 million would have. So a total of 1.6 million less people. I don't know about you, but I find that frustrating, as over 9 million people will still show up to Islands of Adventure over the course of a year, probably over 10 million at this point, but your chances of riding Velocicoaster has now technically shrunk. So why is there a sudden drop in capacity? From what I understand, ride attendants checking restraints in the station must now follow different procedures that add time to the boarding cycle. Just for your better understanding, let's quickly train you on how Velocicoaster is operated. In the load station are 4 positions for ride attendants who check restraints: unload back, unload front, and load back. The positions shown here are where these attendants stand while trains are dispatched in advance in the station. The unload side attendants check seat A, which is the left seat, and the load attendants check seat B, which is the right seat. The front attendants check their side of the train from rows 1 to 6, and the back attendants check their side of the train from rows 7 to 12. In the past, the back attendants would start checking at row 7 and end at row 12, and the front attendants would start at row 6 and end at row 1 in the opposite direction. What this does is leave the ride attendant just steps away from their console where they stand when trains are being dispatched, so it saves several seconds with each dispatch. And trust me, as a former ride operator, every second counts when it comes to getting good throughput. Well, I hear that in December of 2022, a change was made where the front attendants now had to check rows in the order of 1 to 6 rather than 6 to 1, and the back attendants now had to check rows in the order of 12 to 7 rather than 7 to 12. This now leaves all attendants further from their consoles after they've checked restraints, adding time to each dispatch. And now with a very recent change, after checking their seats, the front and back attendants must wait for each other at the middle of the train and give confirmation to each other that they have checked all their rows. And then the attendants actually recheck their rows in the opposite order and work their way back to their consoles, which now means restraints are checked twice on Velocicoaster, and overall, this is why dispatches average as high as 75 to 80 seconds. Now, a lot of you may be thinking that having your restraint double checked adds an additional margin of safety, which it certainly does, and you're not wrong for thinking this. But in my years working as a ride operator at Six Flags Great Adventure, I learned that safety is first, second, last, and always, which was a mantra promoted in ride operations, and it's honestly drilled into my head. But second to safety is efficient and quick operations that guarantee high capacity, as this is extremely important when it comes to guest satisfaction. Now, when it comes to checking restraints twice, ride operators should be trained well enough that with just a single check of a restraint, they either verify a rider is safely secured by the restraint, correct a restraint position if it is not securely in place, or ask that rider to exit the attraction if the restraint is unable to accommodate that rider due to that guest's physical characteristics. With safety being first, second, last, and always, nothing should be missed with a single check of a restraint, as ride operators should be looking out for everything. So with proper training, a second check of a restraint should not be necessary. And I'd just like to say that I am not in any way saying the Velocicoaster crew is poorly trained, and I've only witnessed the opposite. From what I've heard and also seen myself, the ride crew at Velocicoaster are industry leading when it comes to safety, efficiency, professionalism, and positive guest interactions. And I truly mean this. I have nothing but respect for the ride crew at Velocicoaster, but this change by park management now requires the ride crew to check restraints in a slower and operationally redundant manner that adds time to each dispatch cycle and lowers the ride's guest throughput. Overall, each rider should have been perfectly safe with the original method of checking restraints, as long as operators were qualified and thoroughly trained, which they should have been in the first place. And from the point of view of a properly trained ride operator, this new method of double checking restraints doesn't really make you all that safer, since any issues should be found with a single check of a restraint, and it makes the line move slower and less people get to ride Velocicoaster, period. So if there was a problem that stemmed from any specific crew members doing a poor job, this change doesn't seem seem like the right solution to me, as rather than addressing the problem with any specific team members where a safety issue arose and leaving guests out of things, this new policy means that all guests attending Islands of Adventure are directly affected. And trust me, you'll want Velocicoaster to operate at as high of an hourly capacity as possible. At the moment, the ride does not accept Express Pass, which allows guests to skip the standby queue. But once it does, the Express Pass line will take priority over the standby line. So expect the standby line to move at a rate of less than half what it currently does. So the better the ride crew is allowed to perform, the faster the line will move. I very much hope that this is a temporary change and that these new policies are walked back to allow Velocicoaster to safely deliver more rides an hour and keep guest satisfaction at an all-time high. Or if these changes are permanent, I think Universal should look into having more than 4 ride attendants check restraints to help save time. To stay consistent with the new restraint checking policy, that may mean a total of 8 attendants checking restraints rather than 4. Now, if I hear any changes, I'll certainly report back to you guys. So that will do it for this video. I hope it was a cool perspective from what it's like to work as a ride operator from behind the scenes, and hopefully it even inspires you to become a ride operator if that aligns with your path in life. My years working as a ride operator were some of the best years of my life, and I highly recommend it to anyone who is a fan of roller coasters and theme parks in general. Anyway, be sure to like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to see more like this one, and comment below what you think of this whole situation. I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.